Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of GLP's 10 out of 10. And today we have with us British lighting designer, Paule Constable. Paule fell into the world of lighting after a flatmate who was a stage manager fell in love and ran off to Spain. Paule pretended to be her and reported for work as a follow spot operator at London's Hackney Empire. The rest is now history. Her opera work includes productions at the Royal Opera House in London, the Metropolitan Opera in New York, Welsh National Opera, and Glyndebourne. In dance, Paule has lit productions at the Royal Ballet, along with pieces for Kim Brandstrup, Tuckett and Matthew Bourne. In theatre, her work is extensive, having lit productions around the world, but she has enjoyed a long collaboration with the National Theatre in London, having been the first woman to light a show there, and now being an associate director. A couple of notable massive successes that have come from that collaboration are her work on Warhorse and The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night. To date, Paule's office is home to 5 Laurence Olivier Awards, 2 Tony Awards, 3 Night of Illumination Swords, 2 New York Drama Desk Awards, 3 LA Critics Circle Awards, and a Helpman Award, amongst a long list of many others, also including a 2020 award from the London Critics Circle for services to theatre. Paule's style in her work can be described as stripped back, keeping things simple and clear and using naturalism as inspiration. In her own words, it's kind of Amish. Welcome, Paule Constable.
Thank you, Mark. It was slightly mortifying to hear yourself talked about.
Thanks so much for joining us today. We've got our 10 questions for you. Going back into the beginning of your career, what was your first show as a designer?
I suppose it was about 1990. There was a company in Scotland called 784, based in Glasgow, and someone I'd been assisting had been working up there, and they'd asked him to do a show and he couldn't, so they asked me to do it. And it was a production of The Resistible Rise of Arturo Ui by Bertolt Brecht. But the thing that was memorable about it, particularly for me, is that the director was a woman called Roanna Ben, who went on to be very senior in Channel 4. The set and costume designer was a woman called Ray Smith, who went on to design shows like Warhorse. And that was the first time Ray and I worked together. And we had a cast, I think, of 6, including 2 young actors who had just graduated from the Royal Scottish Academy, as it was then. One called David Tennant and one called Ashley Jensen. So hilariously, it was quite an auspicious moment. And we teched the show in this tiny community theatre called Motherwell Civic, where they had the snooker one week and us the next. And the actors did 6 actors playing all the parts in the show, with 57 costume changes, and It was absolute insanity. And you think that in the middle of it all, you had these 4 people who sort of became giants in their world, but we had no idea in that moment. But we laughed and laughed and learned a lot.
Wow, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Working with people like that, that's absolutely brilliant. If only you knew, as you say, what was going to come out of it. Brilliant. You've obviously done a huge number of productions. You've traveled the world, worked a lot of places, and I'm sure absolutely everything went smoothly every time on every production, right? Or maybe not. Is there one kind of Spinal Tap moment that really springs to mind of where it wasn't all plain sailing and it didn't quite go to plan?
Oh God, there's too many, aren't there? I mean, I was thinking about some of the most ridiculous situations I found myself in.
Right.
And before I started working in theatre, I worked very much in the kind of music side of the industry. And I used to work in a venue that they've now pulled down in London called the Astoria, which was just on the corner of Tottenham Court Road. And this company called Midnight Design did the lighting there, and I basically was part of the team.
Right.
And this particular evening, we did a psychic TV gig. Now, psychic TV with this kind of insane avant-garde, kind of very out there collective. Genesis Piorage, who is the lead singer, used to really love kind of creating this sort of sense of anarchy and madness.
Right.
And he started singing this song, and slowly people started to get up on stage and join in, and he'd brought some dancers on, and these dancers weren't wearing very much. Anyway, by the middle of this number, most people had taken all their clothes off. And suddenly all these naked people started picking up these lengths of arc line, which were all over the set, and started sort of swinging them around their heads. At which point, I think it was Paul on the desk turned to me and said, "You've got to go and sort that out."
Right.
What? So I had to kind of run down onto stage, and myself and one of the other riggers, Wilf, we just spent the next sort of 10 minutes kind of amongst all these naked people trying to pull these bits of lighting off.
Right.
Please stop it. You're really going to hurt yourself.
That's right. That's right. That's absolutely brilliant. What would you say is the best piece of advice that anyone has ever given you, either professionally or otherwise?
When I sort of came into working in theatre, I sort of worked quite on the sort of fringe and experimental side of theatre. And there was this brilliant lighting designer called Stevie Whitson.
Right.
He was outrageous, absolutely outrageous. And I met him and started working with him a lot. And we did some festivals and some circus work together. And I adored working for him. And one summer, he was doing a new piece for this company called Station House Opera. And I was waiting for the phone call. You know, it's like it was going to tour Europe. It was very much my kind of scene. And I didn't hear from him. And I rang him up and I said, "Stevie, you know, I was really disappointed. You know, do you want me to do the gig?" And he said, "Paule, can you please just fuck off and do your own work?" And I was absolutely mortified. I was like, "What do you mean?" And then I realized about 5 years later that he'd given me this gift, which is that he was saying to me, "Stop doing this for other people." He was saying, "You've got to go. You're really creative. You've got what it takes." I didn't have any formal lighting training. He was just saying, "Just go and do it." He said, "Girlfriend, you've got to just go and do it."
Right. I mean, again, such a phenomenal career so far. What's your proudest achievement, would you say, so far?
I am really proud of my body of work. I'm proud of, I think I've never felt that I've had to make work that looks like other people have done it. I've always tried to find a way of staying true to what I think light can do and what I think light should be in a piece. And I think I would say 85–90% of the time that's true of the work that I've delivered. So I'm really proud of kind of, I suppose it's that I developed a voice.
Which is great. You're obviously tremendously busy, doing lots of shows, and maybe one thing we'll touch on in a moment, a lot of interviews at the moment supporting the industry through the lockdown. But what do you normally do in your downtime?
The things that keep me sane, really, which is running. I run a lot, and I love being outside. So I swim in the ocean a lot. Okay. I surf, and I love the mountains. I love map reading and I love mountaineering. My partner's a climbing instructor. The kids, we just spend all the time we can outside. Right. I sometimes think it's funny that a lot of my work is based on kind of ideas from the natural world. And I think it's funny, I spend all my time indoors recreating the world that I love outdoors. Right. But yeah, being outside is the thing I love most. So when I'm not working, I'm usually running up a hill or hiking up a mountain or in the ocean. Fantastic. Of all of the places you've worked, do you have a particular favorite venue? I mean, obviously, I feel very, very, very at home at the National Theatre. It sort of is home to me. I've been incredibly lucky. And because it's got 3 auditoria, it's always different working there because the challenges in each space are so different. And, one of them, the smaller space, is very flexible. It's no 2 shows are the same. So that's been an incredible sort of spine to my career. I really, really love working at Glyndebourne because I love the kind of resonance of that space and the kind of it's the auditorium is made of the most beautiful wood, and it's unlike anywhere else I've worked, and the sound is exquisite, and it just frames a space beautifully.
Mm.
I love the Young Vic because I grew up there as a kind of young associate artist when I was quite small.
Excellent.
Yeah.
The Young Vic. Brilliant.
Mm.
Absolutely brilliant. Phenomenal venue. Obviously, we've been in various different stages of lockdown with access to the outdoors or not, which I'm sure has been tough based on all of your pastimes. But if you were at home and had a musical artist or a musical album, which would be the one that you could hang on to, who or what would that be?
It would be David Byrne, and it would probably be Stop Making Sense. So it'd be Talking Heads, Stop Making Sense.
Mm-hmm.
It always makes me feel happy.
Okay. Wow. That's
I
brilliant.
remember the movie is so brilliant. Just that idea of, building and building and building and building.
Yes.
And it's funny because it's one of those albums that we've had both the kids here and their partners through lockdown, and it's one that we can all listen to. It's a great washing up, cooking, sunny day, winter's day, anything. It just changes the kind of mode in the room.
David Byrne, fantastic. And phenomenal artist, really phenomenal. If you were able to wind the clock back and go and visit the teenage Paulie and offer one piece of advice, what would that be?
Don't ever think that you'll stop being frightened.
Okay.
But don't ever worry about it. I sort of think a lot of my journey through my career has been learning to manage fear, but also to realize that one, fear is important. Like, you always have to take risks to do good work, and you'll never know all the answers. But actually, that's okay. And don't try and narrow. I think if you get too fixated on trying to run away from fear, what happens is you narrow down your choices and you become less creative.
All right. Don't be frightened of fear. Keep it going. If you were able to sit down for a cup of coffee with any one person at all, be them living or past, who would that be?
Well, right now, I'm really, really ashamed to say this, and this is my political bone. It would either be Michael Gove or Boris Johnson, because I think there's so much that they don't understand about the mess that they've made for our industry post-Brexit.
Right.
I would really love just to sit down with one of them and talk it through, because our industry's been given a hard Brexit, and it is so detrimental to the largest growth industry in the UK. It's so dumb. I can't even begin to tell you. It's so frustrating. So that's not very imaginative, but actually right now, that's who I need to actually gaffer tape to a chair and just talk to them. I'm not going to hurt them. I just need to talk to them. There's a lot of things that they need to understand.
Yes.
That I think is unwitting chaos and impossibility that they've left.
There we go.
Yes.
Fantastic. We make it to our last question.
Oh goodness, that was very.
I know, it just kind of skips by. In a moment, once we finish with the interview, you're gonna get a phone call from Team GB, and they're gonna call you up for the Olympics. Now, it could be either the Summer Games or the Winter Games. That's your call. But the question is, what's the sport they're going to call you up for? What's the one thing you'd like to have a go at?
Oh, I'd like to have a go at, or would be ridiculous having a go at. My ridiculous answer was synchronized swimming, because and actually I went out and asked, Bram is my son is just doing some hangboarding because he's a manic climber. I was like, come on, what's the answer? What would my Olympic sport be? Like, synchronized swimming. How ridiculous would that be?
Right.
What would I like to have a go at? I love sports. So I love long distance running, and I love all sorts of things. So I'm willing to give most things a go.
Right.
I'm terrible at golf.
Okay, right. Paulie, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much. Obviously, I know you're extremely busy with obviously getting the message across and trying to help everybody out. So I really appreciate the time that you found for us today.
It's such a pleasure to talk about something a little bit less serious than most of my Zoom conversations. So thank you, Mark, for great questions as well.
Brilliant, brilliant. It's been great. It's been inspirational. It's been amusing. It's been, yeah, it's your experience is, yeah, just phenomenal to help and inspire others. So it's great. Absolutely.
Oh,
Great.
thank you.
I look forward, of course, to catching up in person whenever that may one day happen again. But of course, until then, stay safe, stay well.
Thank you.
And thanks again. And good luck. Keep up the campaigning. Good luck with it.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Right.